To the extent that now the next government will implement the budget. We just passed the budget just before, was it last month or early this month? I forget. But in any case, on the financing, we're looking at an aggregate of 4 trillion, and then we on the total expenditure is 4 trillion for the next financial year. But then how to finance that budget? We have the taxes on one hand, and then we have the borrowing. So now this borrowing amount in net terms, not even in the gross terms, in net terms, that's the 860 billion. So just working the numbers, it's estimated by next month, next week, as we close this financial year, the public debt stock over the years will have hit 8.6 trillion shillings. So if you are adding another 800 billion, we'll be at 9.6 trillion by the end of the next financial year. But remember, the public debt limit was at 9 trillion. So that meant that either the borrowing should be scaled down at least to be within that 9 trillion shillings, so just a maximum of 400 billion shillings to be borrowed in the next financial year, or and that will meant even reducing on the expenditure side. At some point when this budget was being discussed, that was the proposal by the Budget and Appropriation Committee, that they scaled down the financing, but because of some pushback, or Treasury said that they may not have some financial space, so they had their way. And even in National Assembly, that's where it was initially passed, this borrowing ceiling, the raising from 9 trillion to 110 trillion shillings. So that was passed like 2 weeks ago, amidst also some pushback from some of the MPs. So even as by the time it was getting into the Senate, it was more or less like a formality. And even the numbers is confirming that close to 90% of the 30 MPs who voted for that, they voted to pass that, to raise that debt ceiling. So, but that being the case, as I mentioned earlier, it's one thing to pass the debt ceiling, but it's another thing, the debt that we're incurring, where is it going into? As Dr. mentioned earlier on, and what Treasury has said along, that for every capital investment that they are getting into, the rate of return is 10%. So if you look around, pick any capital investment project that Kenya has gotten involved into the last couple of years. Can we sit and say that that rate of return is 10%? Like if you invest 10 billion, do you get like a 1 billion in return in any given year? The answer is no. So that is where the crux of the problem. We are getting into so many projects which we are ostensibly financing by debt, but you're not getting that commensurate return, and that's where the problem is.